I never went to college. I never really thought about it. I finished high school, married young, and spent the next 18 years raising 3 kids on 1 paycheck. Nobody would call that an education. But everything I learned during those years is what got me out of that store alive. Many people had been there before me. None of them made it home. They left their notes anyway. My name is Daisy Mark. I'm 41. And I live in Delphos, Ohio, with my husband, Ray, and our 3 kids. Bree is 16, Cody is 11, and Emma just turned 6. Ray works at a factory outside town. I've stayed home with the kids since Bree was born. Running a house on 1 income teaches you to pay attention. You learn what can wait, what can't, and how far you can stretch what you have before the next paycheck comes in. I kept a small notebook in my purse for grocery lists, coupons, appointments, and anything else I couldn't afford to forget. It wasn't anything special. But in that store, it became the most important thing I owned. The whole thing happened on a Saturday morning. Ray had taken the kids to Cody's baseball game, and I told him I would meet them there after I finished grocery shopping. Saturday was the only time I could get through the store without someone hanging off the cart asking for cereal, snacks, or something they had seen in a commercial. Miller's Pantry had been the town grocery store longer than I had lived there. 12 aisles, same layout for decades. I knew where everything was without thinking about it. There was no aisle 13. There never had been. The numbers jumped from 12 to 14 because the man who built the store in the 60s didn't want an unlucky number on the floor. Everyone in town knew the story. I had always thought it was one of those harmless little facts people liked to repeat. I didn't think much about it until that morning. Emma had been asking for a box of store-brand cereal with a little toy inside. It wasn't in its usual place, so I asked the cashier if they had any left. He was new, 17, maybe 18. His name tag still looked fresh from the package. He checked his handheld scanner and frowned. "It says aisle 13, he told me. "Past that stock room." I thought he was joking. "Miller's doesn't have an aisle 13. He looked at the scanner again, then turned it toward me as though the screen might explain itself. "That's what it says, ma'am." I laughed and asked how long he had worked there. 3 days. I should have chosen another cereal and left. Instead, I headed toward the back to find Ed Miller, the manager. Emma had been asking for that exact box for 2 weeks, and I hated disappointing her over something so small. That was when I noticed the door. It was set into the wall between the restrooms and the stockroom, painted the same dull beige as everything around it. A stack of empty pallets partly blocked it, and unless you were looking directly at that section of wall, it would have been easy to miss. A small black number had been painted near the top. The paint was chipped and faded, as though it had been there for years. I had shopped at Miller's for 15 years. I had walked past that wall hundreds of times. I'd never seen the door before. I wish I could say that was enough to make me turn around. It wasn't. I have never been good at leaving something unexplained. And by then, Finding Emma's cereal was no longer the only reason I wanted to know what was behind it. Outside, storm clouds had been gathering all morning. Just as I reached for the knob, the lights overhead flickered. Once, twice. Then every fluorescent tube in the back of the store dimmed at the same time. I stood there with my hand on the door, listening to the electric hum return. That should have been enough to warn me away. Instead, I opened it. There was an aisle on the other side. Not a closet, not an office. An entire aisle. Gray tile stretched beneath rows of fluorescent lights. Tall shelves stood on both sides, packed with cereal, soup, paper towels, and cleaning supplies. It looked exactly like the rest of Miller's Pantry, except it shouldn't have been there. The shelves continued much further than the building had room for, turning into a faint gray light in the distance. I stepped through to get a better look. The door swung shut behind me. I turned right away and grabbed the handle, but it wouldn't move. I pulled harder, using both hands until my shoulder hurt. Nothing. I didn't panic, not yet. 18 years of managing a house and raising children teaches you that panic has never fixed a flooded bathroom, a broken washing machine, or a 6-year-old screaming because she pushed a bead into her nose. You breathe. You look at what is actually in front of you. Then you decide what to do next. So I made myself breathe. My phone showed 11:14 a.m. I had no service. I turned on the flashlight and examined the door. No hinges on my side, no visible lock, no gap around the frame wide enough to work anything through. I called out, "Hello?" My voice traveled down the aisle and came back thinner. No one answered. The shelves nearest me held familiar products, but many of the labels were wrong in small ways. A cereal box showed a smiling family, with every face turned away from the camera. A soup can listed memory between salt and onion powder. A package of paper towels promised to absorb spills, stains, and regrets. I put it back. There was only one direction left: forward. I walked for several minutes, though the products never changed. The same red cereal box appeared every 10 feet. The same dented soup can waited at eye level again and again. When I looked behind me, the door was gone. There were only shelves and gray light. At the far end, cold air touched my face. I stepped through expecting the stockroom. Instead, I found myself in the parking lot of Miller's Pantry. At first, I thought I had somehow crossed the building, but when I looked up at the sky, I saw no storm, no clouds, no sun, just a flat gray brightness spread evenly overhead, as though the sky itself gave off light. The parking lot was completely empty. No cars, no carts, no delivery truck beside the loading dock. I had been there hundreds of times. There was always someone loading groceries, returning a cart, or shouting at a child to watch for traffic. Without any of it, the lot looked unfinished, like a picture of the place instead of the place itself. I checked my phone again. 11:14. The seconds were moving, but the time had not changed. "It must be a power outage," I said out loud. My voice sounded too clear. The storm must have knocked something out and everyone went home. It made no sense, I knew that. But I needed to believe that to stay calm. I walked around to the front of the store. The automatic doors didn't open. Through the glass, I could see my shopping cart beside lane 4. My purse was still in the child seat, and my grocery list rested on top. But I don't see any customers. No cashier, no Ed Miller walking around in his green apron. So were the pharmacy, the diner, the hardware store. There were no cars on Main Street, no engines in the distance, no birds on the power lines. I even stopped to listen for insects. Nothing. The silence wasn't peaceful. It felt attentive, as though the whole town had gone quiet to hear what I would do. The laundromat was the first building I found unlocked. Inside, the machines stood in 2 neat rows. There was no power, but one dryer near the back was turning. Slowly. One empty rotation after another. I watched it complete a full turn. Something knocked once from inside. I backed out and ran back to Miller's. My purse was still there, and the store was the last place I clearly remembered being in the real world. It gave me a false sense of safety. This time, the automatic doors opened. I stopped on the threshold. Was someone here? "Ed?" I called out. The intercom crackled overhead. I waited, but nothing came through it. My purse had been moved from the cart. It now sat on a customer service counter beside the community corkboard. Usually, that board was covered with piano lessons, church dinners, lawn services, and lost pets. Now, there was only one flyer. "Have you seen Chester? Last seen near Miller's Pantry, October 1994. The faded photograph showed a beagle mix with one dark ear. I knew the story. Walt Pruitt had disappeared in October of 1994 after someone claimed they saw his missing dog behind Miller's Pantry. Neither Walter nor Chester ever came home. I removed the flyer. There was writing on the back, so faint I had to angle it toward the gray light. "Don't answer the intercom. It learns your name when you answer. Check the meat case. I left more for whoever comes next. WP." All of a sudden, the intercom clicked. "Daisy?" Ed Miller's voice came through the ceiling speakers, warm and familiar. "Daisy, could you come to customer service?" My skin tightened across my arms. Ed never called me Daisy. He called me Mrs. Mark, even after I had told him a dozen times that Daisy was fine. "Daisy," the voice repeated. I kept my mouth closed. The speaker crackled. Then it whispered, "Good." I found Walter's next message inside a brown paper package in the meat case. "Deli ticket machine, pool number 13. Don't wait for it to give it to you." The dispenser gave me ticket 12, then 12 again, then a third 12. When I opened the casing, I found a black thread wound around the number wheel, holding it in place. I cut it with the nail scissors from my purse. The wheel clicked. Ticket 13 slipped into the tray by itself. A second message had been taped to the back. "This place counts everything. People, doors, steps, sales. Find the woman's notes. She left the first one where she cooked. Walter had underlined woman twice. My first thought was the diner. Then I remembered the rack of free recipe cards near the checkout lanes. The rack began turning as I approached. There was no breeze. It completed one slow rotation and stopped with a handwritten card facing me. 13-layer return casserole. Serves 1 if you follow directions. Ingredients: 13 items, 13 different places, 1 exact total, 1 steady head. Directions: write down every price. Do not trust a price that changes after you look away. Never accept money from this place. If the total is wrong, check the receipt before checking yourself. The store lies better when you're tired. On the back was a hand-drawn map with 13 locations circled. At the bottom were 2 initials, D.O. Beneath them, I got close. The note didn't tell me how to leave, not yet. It told me where to begin. I slipped it into the notebook in my purse, the same notebook that had once held grocery lists, appointment dates, and coupons now held the first piece of my way home. I found the woman's full name inside the laundromat coin return. Denise Owens. If you find this, write your name somewhere. It helps you to remember you were a person before this place started talking like people you love. I wrote beneath it, Daisy Mark, Ray, Bree, Cody, Emma. Then I wrote the date, Saturday, April 18th. At least that was the date when I entered. Denise's notes became the closest thing I had accompanied. One was written on a coupon and hidden in a vending machine return slot. Another was rolled into the center of a paper towel tube. At the hardware store, 3 words had been scratched beneath the handle of a shopping basket. Look under sales. Behind a faded clearance sign, I found another warning. The lowest price is never free. If something is marked down to nothing, leave it. The warnings were short. They were the kind of warnings someone writes after breaking them once. Don't take a cart that is already moving. If you hear yourself behind you, don't turn around. Count your items before leaving a building. If you have more than you entered with, drop everything. Never follow a blue sale sign. I found the last warning too late. I'd been searching the pharmacy for water when the lights switched on 1 row at a time. Click, click, click. A blue sign dropped from the ceiling. Bottled water, 2 for $1. An arrow pointed toward the rear hallway. The pharmacy kept drinks near the front. I knew that. But my tongue felt swollen and I had gone too long without water. Another sign appeared further down. This way. Then another. Last 2 cases. I followed them through a hallway that should not have fit inside the building. At the end was a room filled from floor to ceiling with bottled water. Hundreds of cases gleamed beneath white lights. Condensation ran down the plastic and gathered on the floor. Emma sat in the middle of the room. Her back was toward me. She held an open bottle. "Mommy, I'm thirsty." Every part of me knew she wasn't there. That didn't stop me from picturing the way she looked with a fever, cheeks flushed and lips cracked. She turned. Her face was Emma's, but her mouth shone as though she had been drinking for hours. "See," she said, "it's safe." Water dripped from the bottle. The drops stopped halfway to the floor. Then they rose back into it. I slowly stepped away. Every bottle in the room tightened at once, plastic collapsing inward as though something had inhaled through them. The labels turned toward me. Each one had my name printed where the brand should have been. Daisy. The lights went out. Something moved through the bottles. Cases toppled. Water splashed upward. Emma's voice came closer without footsteps. I ran. The pharmacy aisles changed around me. Cold medicine became canned vegetables. Greeting cards became butcher paper. Every turn brought me back to another blue sign. This way, Daisy. I tore one down. Behind it was another. I kept moving until I saw gray light through the front windows. The doors opened before I reached them. I stumbled outside with nothing to drink. After that, I stopped trusting anything that looked convenient. I found safe water because of a note that looked like a shopping list. Bleach, matches, metal pan, red gumball, no green. The old candy machine outside the diner had two sections. One held red gumballs, the other held green. I turned the red handle. The base of the machine clicked open. Inside were matches, a tiny bottle of bleach. Inside were matches, a tiny bottle of bleach, a folded metal cup, and another note. Rain collects in the diner's roof vent. Boil it. Add 2 drops after it cools. Wait 30 minutes. If the water reflects your face before you lean over it, throw it away. I climbed to the roof. A small pool of water had collected in an overturned vent cover, though no rain had fallen since I arrived. I carried it downstairs and boiled it on a camping burner hidden beneath the diner grill. While I waited, the radio switched on. An announcer spoke over an old country song. This is a local emergency bulletin. Daisy Mark has been missing for 6 days. Then I heard Ray's voice came through the speaker. Daisy, please come home. The kids think you left us. I knew it wasn't real. Still, the words found every guilty place inside me. I switched off the radio, but it kept playing. I unplugged it. Ray's voice, then moved to the cash register, then the telephone, then the speaker above the grill. Tell us where you are. The boiled water reflected my face. I was standing 3 feet away. I threw it across the floor. The reflection remained on the dry tile, looking up at me. Then it smiled. You're wasting what your children need. I slammed the pan over it. The next batch behaved normally. My reflection appeared only when I leaned over the water. That became my test. Not whether something looked safe, whether it obeyed common sense. The wrong world kept trying to make common sense slippery. Street names changed. Buildings moved. My notebook began filling with entries I hadn't written. Buy milk. Call Ray. Open aisle 13. One page appeared in my own handwriting, claiming Denise was alive beneath Miller's pantry. The loops in the D were mine. The low crosses on the T were mine. Even the small ink smear along the edge looked right. Then I reached the final instruction. Bring Emma. I tore out the page and burned it. After that, I numbered every page and added one private family detail at the top. If a detail changed, I knew the page had been touched. The place made small mistakes. Sometimes my note was changed just one word. That was what frightened me. It wasn't merely copying me, it was practicing. By what I guessed was the fourth day, I stopped speaking unless I had to. I didn't say my children's names, I didn't read the notes aloud. But the town listened. When I became silent, it started using my own voice. I heard myself whisper from empty aisles. Ray will be better without you. The children are already forgetting. Once, when I lay on the laundromat floor, my voice came from inside the dryer. 1 husband, 3 children, 1 mother. Then it began again. 1 husband, 3 children, no mother. The machines repeated it until I covered my ears. That was the part that frightened me. Not the false rooms, not the things in the dark. The thought that if I stayed long enough, I might stop knowing which thoughts belonged to me. I wrote on the inside cover of my notebook. My name is Daisy Mark. I'm Ray's wife. I'm Bree, Cody, and Emma's mother. I came here alone. Anything that says otherwise is lying. I read it whenever I woke, never aloud, but I read it until the words felt like mine again. I found Denise's final instruction inside the laundromat change machine. The machine had been humming without power. Every few minutes, the coin return clicked and dropped nothing. Then, one day, it gave me a quarter. The coin felt warm. Everything metal in that place was cold enough to sting. But that quarter felt as though someone had just held it. Words were scratched around the edge. Open the back. I removed the service panel. An envelope made from a folded receipt had been taped behind the coin machine. The front had been blank once. I could still see the faint edge of an erased mark. Now, 1 word was written across it. Daisy. This place had added my name. Inside were several receipt pages and the rest of Denise's instructions. The door doesn't open because you find it. It opens when the store finishes counting you. Every person who comes through is entered as inventory. That is why it changes prices, quantities, aisle numbers, and names. It is trying to decide what you're worth. Below that, Walter thought 13 registers could overload it. He was wrong. The registers only counted him again. The next page explained Denise's plan. The system cannot release anything until the total balances. It brought you in through an item you wanted. To leave, complete the purchase. 13 items, 13 locations. Final total, 1313. Not a penny more, not a penny less. Use real coupons. Use real money. Write down every price. The map listed the 13 items. Miller's Pantry, cereal. Pharmacy, aspirin. Diner, coffee. Hardware store, light bulb. School, pencil. Bank, envelope. Gas station, mattress. Movie theater, candy. Church, candle. Laundromat, detergent. House on Elm, canned soup. House on Birch, child's sock. Water tower office, salt. Beside each item, Denise had recorded prices and discounts. Some prices were written in money, others weren't. Aspirin, your first memory. Coffee, 1 apology. Sock, the sound of your child's voice. At the bottom, she had written, do not pay with memories, years, names, or people. Only money counts. The last warning was underlined 3 times. I reached 1312. The store offered me the last penny. I took it. Don't. A penny from this place isn't money. It is permission. I looked at the warm quarter, then I threw it across the room. Every dryer door opened. A voice came from inside the machines. Good choice. It sounded like Denise. I didn't answer. I opened my notebook and made 5 columns. Item, price, coupon, final cost, running total. It was the same sort of list I made before every grocery trip. The only difference was that getting one number wrong might keep me here forever. The detergent came first. Its price changed whenever I looked away. At first it was $1.25, then $1.75, and then it changed into 1 night of sleep. I struck the machine until it returned to $1.25, paid with coins from my purse, and collected the receipt. Item 1 of 13, it read. Customer status undecided. At the school, I found a 10-cent pencil in the principal's office. Every classroom clock began ticking when I picked it up. Then the comes. Mrs. Mark, your daughter is waiting in room 13. The directory beside the office listed rooms 12 and 14. As I watched, a new line appeared between them. Room 13, Emma Mark. I grabbed the pencil and walked away. The intercom continued. She has been waiting a long time. I kept moving, ignored it. She doesn't remember your face anymore. That one hurt. A mother can ignore a threat to herself far longer than she can ignore the idea that her child feels abandoned. But I knew this wasn't real. Outside, the receipt read, pencil, 10 cents. Emotional surcharge declined. At the hardware store, the light bulb contained a tiny figure with my face. Denise's notes said a damaged item counted as half price only if I damaged it myself. Without hesitation, I broke the light bulb with a hammer. The figure disappeared with a sound, like a breath being cut off. The register charged 44 cents. I wrote it down. I needed to keep going. The diner coffee showed me a life continuing without me. Ray sat at our kitchen table, older and alone. Bree walked in as an adult, then Cody, then Emma. All grown and unable to recognize me. You've been gone 9 years, Ray said from the surface of the coffee. I knew it was impossible, but grief doesn't wait for proof. I poured it out. The people in the coffee screamed as they spread across the floor. I filled another cup and refused to look into it. At the pharmacy, a coupon offered $2 off the aspirin. The fine print read, redeemable upon surrender of 1 childhood memory. I used my own 50-cent coupon instead. The receipt called the aspirin temporary relief. I crossed that out and wrote aspirin myself. The remaining items were waiting where Denise had marked them. An envelope at the bank, matches at the gas station, a box of candy in the theater. Each place tried something different. The bank offered to erase every debt my family owed. The gas station showed Cody's baseball game playing inside the security monitor, with an empty seat where I should have been. The theater played home movies my family had never recorded. I kept my head down. I wrote down each price. I took only what was on the list, and I kept moving. At the church, a white candle sat on the altar with a 60-cent sticker underneath. The moment I touched it, the bell rang. Denise's warning came back to me. The church bell means stay outside. The doors slammed shut at that moment. Every candle lit at once. The people started to fill the pews. Walter sat in the front row with his dog Chester at his feet. Denise sat 3 rows behind him. She looked tired. "You found my notes," she said. I wasn't sure if that was real her, so I didn't answer. "I can help you finish," she offered. Walter looked over his shoulder. "I hope you get out." Denise held out her hand. "Give me your notebook. I can fix your total." That told me she wasn't real. The real Denise had trusted someone else to finish what she couldn't, and she paid the price for it. She would never ask me to surrender the one thing keeping me sane. I backed toward a stained glass window. "You're not smarter than I was," the false Denise said. "No," I answered. It was the first time I had spoken to anything in days. "I'm just not making the same mistake." I threw the candle at the window. The glass shattered, and the candle landed outside, damaged. Half price. I climbed through after it. Every person inside the church began screaming with my voice. I took the candle and started running. The child's sock waited in a 1-story house on Birch Street. As I bent to pick it up, I heard my family eating dinner above me. Emma asked Ray to tell them a story about Mom. After a long silence, he said, "I don't remember much anymore." I looked up. The house had no second floor. Still, I could hear chairs scraped above my head. The ceiling sagged. Footprints pressed down through the plaster, following me toward the door. I picked up the sock and left without looking up again. After collecting the soup and salt, I returned to the laundromat and calculated the total. No, it was wrong. $1 too high. I checked every price, then every coupon. The receipt for the church candle now showed $1.30 instead of 30 cents. The store had changed it. I found the original receipt folded beneath the candle. Faded ink, 30 cents. With the correct price, the first 12 items totaled $11.89. Emma's cereal normally cost $3.49. I had a $1 coupon for it. Miller's doubled coupons on Saturday mornings before noon, bringing it down to $1.49. Then I found a 25-cent rain check Ed had given me weeks earlier. Final cereal price, $1.24. $11.89 plus $1.24, $13.13. The total was right. Then I counted my money. I was 1 penny short. The warm quarter still lay beside the washing machine. I could use it and receive a penny in change. But Denise had warned me. I flipped the quarter with the tip of my pen. The date read 1994, Walter's year. I flipped it again. The date changed to the year Denise vanished. Then Bree's birth year, Cody's, Emma's. No, this coin was not money. It was bait. I searched my purse again. Nothing. Then, all of a sudden, I remembered a small tear in the lining. A few days earlier, Emma had dropped a penny into my purse. It slipped through the tear before I could retrieve it. I had heard it sliding beneath the fabric and forgotten about it. I ran my fingers along the seam. There it was. I opened the lining with my nail scissors and shook the penny into my palm. Old, scratched, but real. I kissed it before I could stop myself. Thank you, Emma. Every dryer switched on. My own voice whispered from inside them. Now we know where you kept it. I closed my fist around the penny and left. The town had gone quiet. No more voices, no figures behind the windows, no ringing phones. It felt as though the place had stopped trying to distract me because it believed I had already lost. The doors of Miller's Pantry stood open. Inside, bright lights shone over crowded aisles. Music played. Customers pushed carts and compared labels. For one beautiful moment, I thought I was home. Then I noticed their faces. Every shopper's features had been rubbed smooth. The cashier at lane 4 raised her blank head. Next, please. I passed her and walked toward the beige hallway. The door marked 13 stood open. A single checkout lane waited on the other side. Behind the register stood a woman who looked exactly like me. Same clothes, same injuries, same notebook. She smiled. You're late. I placed the 12 items on the belt. She scanned them one by one. The total reached $11.89. Then she held out her hand, the cereal. A box waited beside the register. Emma's cereal. The same one that had brought me here. I scanned it myself. The screen displayed regular price $3.49, double coupon valid, rain check valid, final price $1.24, total $13.13. The false Daisy's smile disappeared. Your coupons expired. No, they're valid. Saturday discount ended. I checked my phone. 11:58 a.m., 2 minutes before noon. The clock had returned. You don't have time, she said. I ignored her. I scanned the coupons myself. The machine accepted them. Her hand shot across the register. Her fingers lengthened, joints bending backward as she covered the total button. You still have to pay. I placed $13 on the counter, then 12 cents. Then the final penny remained in my fist. A bright new penny appeared in the change tray. Perfect. Warm. You can keep Emma's, the cashier said in my daughter's voice. It's special. I opened my hand. Emma's penny was dull and warm. I placed it on the counter. The register made a sound like a breath catching. Total paid $13.13. Balance 0. Customer status returnable. The false Daisy's mouth opened far beyond the limits of her face. Every faceless shopper turned toward me. The register began printing a receipt. It kept printing. Paper poured onto the floor in a long white ribbon. Every line held a name. Dozens more, some dating back to the 60s. At the bottom was mine. Daisy Mark, checked out. The wall behind the register split open. Beyond it was the real Miller's Pantry. I can see warm lights, customers talking, rain against the windows. An overwhelming sense of relief struck me. I grabbed my notebook, ready to run. The false Daisy seized my wrist. You can leave, she said, but the inventory must stay balanced. The register screen then changed. Customer removal requires replacement. Select 1. Ray Mark, Bree Mark, Cody Mark, Emma Mark. No, I responded. Every store needs inventory. The faceless shoppers moved closer. I looked down at the receipt. All those names. People counted, priced, and held because no one had completed the sale correctly. I tore my name from the bottom. The screen flashed red. Right after that, I fell through the bright fluorescent light and it struck the stockroom floor of the real Miller's Pantry. The shopping bag landed beside me. Cans rolled beneath a shelf. The cereal box hit the wall. For several seconds, I couldn't breathe. The stockroom door opened. The young cashier stood there, holding another box of Emma's cereal. "Ma'am, I found what you wanted." I looked behind me. There was only a beige wall now. No checkout lane. No false daisy. No faceless shoppers. "Are you okay?" I pulled out my phone. Saturday, 11:36 a.m. 22 minutes had passed since I asked him about aisle 13. The cashier stared at the items scattered across the floor. Where did those come from? I looked at the broken light bulb, the pink sock, the church candle. They had all come back with me. So had a part of the final receipt. Most of the printing faded as I watched. One line remained. Balance, 0. I folded it into my notebook. Ed Miller entered the stockroom. "Mrs. Mark?" Mrs. Mark, the way he always addressed me. I nearly cried from relief. He looked at my torn clothes and bleeding hands. "What happened?" "Oh, nothing, I fell." It was a bad explanation. Ed knew it, but he also knew when someone wasn't ready to give him a better one. The young cashier handed me the cereal. "I found it in aisle 6, he said. "Someone must have put it in the wrong place. Sorry about that." The box in my hand looked normal. No scratching inside. No strange label. I bought it. My coupon doubled automatically. Ed accepted the rain check. The cereal cost exactly $1.24. I checked the receipt twice. Before I left, I showed Ed the beige wall near the stockroom. But the door was gone. Only a narrow outline remained beneath the paint, visible when the light hit it from the side. Ed ran his hand over it. "Has that always been there?" "No." He looked at me. Then he looked at my hands. 2 weeks later, the wall had been covered with new drywall. Before they sealed it, I returned once. I didn't open anything. I wrote along the hidden edge. "The store counts you as inventory. To leave, complete the purchase." 13 items, 13 locations. Final total, 1313. Use real money. Don't accept change. Don't accept change from this place. Write down every price. Check every receipt. Daisy Mark. Beneath the warning, I taped a penny. Not Emma's. I kept that one. On the penny I left behind, I scratched 2 words. Use this.